26. Peace to the planet. How are you? You know what it is? It's Adisa. I am really happy, right? Because if Bishop Chronicles is about anything, it's about helping make men better in different ways, you know, mentally, physically, psychologically and spiritually if possible. But also, like the help that I need, right? Because Lord knows I need help, is finances, right? Lord knows, like money is the Achilles heel of my life. So, when money is the Achilles heel of your life, you need to talk to somebody. Um, who is wise in this place and in this space. And I am lucky because being from the Silicon Valley, I've come across tons of amazing people who understand business, who understand finance. And my favorite guy is the one you're looking at. His name is David Frazee of Demystifying Silicon Valley and Demystifying Wealth, where he helps people really figure it out. Not the hustle, you know, fucking card game, but how do you actually get wealthy? And more importantly, once you get it, how do you keep it? David Frazee, welcome to Bishop Chronicles, and thank you for coming back, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's always a pleasure. And yeah, when you said you needed help, I started smiling because I'm like, if only they knew all the reasons. But me too. I'm not throwing stones in a glass house.
Fine. It's fine. No, man, I'm really glad you're on. And it's funny because, I run the Resilient Men's Group, and, we have a lot of good guys from the UK and from California and DC and New York and all these different places and San Francisco. And, like, no matter what we end up talking about, somebody is always kind of trying to navigate the money part of whatever they're enduring, right? It doesn't matter. Money is always a thing. If you're in America right now, you really know it. If you're in California, you super duper know it. And so I guess the thing is for me, I panic when any money things come up, if I'm honest. Like I panic. I panic when I get a letter from the bank. I know I don't, it's not like I got a Cayman Island account or anything, but I just panic. I'm like, oh my God, what are they? Right. I have anxiety. And this year I really decided I've got to step in because I keep saying I'm going to do something and I don't do it. Can we talk about like what are the beginnings of these kinds of mindsets and how do we pivot away into something that's prosperous?
It's a great question. I'm always reminded of the Henry David Thoreau quote, who said, "Most men live lives." I'm sorry, I can't speak. Many men live lives of quiet desperation.
Yeah,
And I think nowhere is that more true than when it comes to money. I have never encountered a subject where there is just so much shame and
yeah,
so much desperation. And we're all living a struggle at some point in our lives. And in some cases, it never ends. But we can't talk about it. We feel humiliated by it because we're men. We're supposed to solve this. Last time we spoke, I mentioned that if you want unconditional love, you can be a woman, you can be a puppy, but we're loved for what we can bring and what we can provide. And we value ourselves and are often valued by that. So money is really the great rattlesnake coiled up inside all of our ability to be happy, our ability to build things that have meaning and to just exist in the world. Without financial security, there is nothing. I mean, as I've told you, I didn't start out wanting to teach financial literacy. It
yeah.
seemed arrogant to me. Also, I grew up very poor, as you know. My family made $6,700 a year, and I had to learn every hard lesson, make fortunes, lose fortunes, do all the terrible things to lose the money I was making before I sat down and figured out what I needed to do. And the reason I started doing it is I was teaching entrepreneurship to just normal small businesses as opposed to high technology Silicon Valley VC
All right.
backed billion-dollar companies. They said I want to return something to the world, so I wanted to teach like my housekeeper and her kids and my gardener and anyone who just has a normal business how they can build an exponential growth business. And the lessons were wonderful, but at the end they always had the same questions. Look, this sounds great, but I got 20,000 on credit card debt, or I have this gambling debt, or
All
I have
right.
this addiction to shopping. I don't know
Right.
what a Roth IRA is. And what I realized is you can't begin to think about the angel of your better self and the path of your future or risk or anything if you don't have financial security. If you're standing on quicksand, you can't move the world. You need a
Yeah,
safe
you can't
place.
play. You
Yeah.
can't play.
Yeah.
No, that's really deep, man, and I think it's really true. I come from a very middle class, household, on the edge of upper middle. Definitely in comparison to a lot of black families in the Bay Area. You know what I mean? Both my parents worked hard. They came from, black Southern poverty in Louisiana. They ended up moving out here separately, and then they met as adults. But they were always really responsible with money. They kept everything. It doesn't mean it was easy. You know what I mean? They went to college, they got their degrees, whatever. Um, and I think somewhere between my natural allergic relationship to mathematics and um, just how immature I was, a lot of what they actually know never really got passed on. My mom used to work for Charles Schwab. You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, it's not like the knowledge isn't there, but I think I never really understood how much it took to maintain, different kinds of investments and stuff like that. And so I think it's also, I think I'm not sure that a lot of parents pass on what they know. Like, get a bank account, do save, and then it seems kind of open-ended after that.
Well, actually, what I was going to say before you mentioned your mom worked for Schwab, which this is the first time I heard that. Most parents are the worst people to be teaching money because they don't know it themselves. But if your mom works for Schwab, the odds are she actually is pretty knowledgeable. So
That's what I've come to
I'm not
learn.
disrespecting Adisa's mother on this podcast. But most parents are
She likes
terrible.
you a lot, by the way.
Oh, thank you. She is a nice person. She's a wonderful person. You know, there's something else I was going to mention. I grew up poor, but went to Stanford for school and have lots of wealthy friends, and
Right.
they have even worse problems than I had. So
Yeah.
it really doesn't matter really where you're born. Most people are just really bad at this. And I think of this book, The Millionaire Next Door. It's kind of an older book now.
I remember that it existed, but I'm not sure that I've read it.
Yeah, well, here's the one takeaway that I think matters from it is they set out to study who were millionaires in New York City, and they expected professional athletes and doctors and lawyers and people that are
Mhm.
high earners. And in fairness, some of those people were millionaires, but most of them were dead ass broke. I mean, I don't have the statistic in front of me, but like
Right.
some obscene number of former National Football League players are in bankruptcy within a few years after they retire.
It still blows my mind that that happens as a regular occurrence. Like
And
it blows my mind. I remember one of the best and worst things about me is how many jobs I've had. I've had a million. But I did have a short stint working at Stanford in this kind of hotel. It was a dorm room, but the regular students didn't go there. Basically, the NFL normally, sometimes I think the NBA would all these basketball players would come, like who just got signed, and they'd like teach them for like a month or whatever, and then they'd have this little mini graduation. Like I went through the, Stanford, I'm a pro, whatever camp for money, um, and I think that that was part of their onboarding to the team.
you know,
But it still seems nuts that even with that, and I'm talking about this was like 2007 or 2008 that I was doing this. You know what I mean? It still blows my mind that so many athletes end up struggling despite these kinds of things.
oh, they're actually given the education, but they still can't implement it. And that's actually something I want to come back to. But let me
Yeah.
finish the millionaire
Break it
next
down. Break
door,
it down.
Brett, just briefly. And by the way, I was a partner at one of the world's largest law firms. The average partner draw for equity partners was $1.3 million. And if you're above average, it's obviously a lot more.
Yeah.
But by the time August rolled around, because we got paid basically at the end of the year, like, 12/31, you got the big check.
Mhm.
People were dead ass broke and taking loans from Citibank Private Bank because they had the second house, the third house, the mistress, the sports
Yeah.
car, the frivolous toys.
Mistress, man, she's always going to be a problem.
Ugh, yeah, that's a
Just kidding. I've never had one.
very
I'm,
expensive habit from what I
I'm only
hear.
telling you what my friends tell me.
The rumor has it. But whatever you're spending money on, and women usually are a large portion, at least for straight men.
Come on now.
Um, they're broke. And so athletes, doctors, lawyers, I mean, people who had these extraordinary earnings had no wealth. So who were the millionaires? And they were completely shocked to find it was like two school teachers who drove the
Wow.
same car for 20 years and lived in the same house
It was
and
the
had
Trader Joe's
30%
who
of their
just did it right.
income that they saved. They were millionaires. Like they were in the stock market, they had some real estate in some cases. They could be worth two, three, $4 million. And one of the things I say to people, which shocks them, is if you make 100 to $130,000 a year and just engage in reasonable savings, you will be a multimillionaire by retirement. And if
Wow.
you're really good at it, many times over. So wealth isn't the bling or the show or the sports car or the fancy watch. It's the ability, and this is going to blow your mind, I hope, and I want people to really feel this. I'm going to say it twice. It's the ability to do what you want, when you want, where you want, with whom you want, for as long as you want, or
Wow.
not.
Who doesn't want that?
I mean,
Right.
again, what you want, where you want, when you want, with whom you want, for as long as you want. That is wealth. And it's invisible. It's not measurable by objects. I was when I first started demystifying wealth, I built some ads I was kind of targeting like 16 to 21 year olds, kind of before people mess their lives up, because you want to get people early, as we'll see here shortly. But
Right, right, right.
you know, women responded pretty well, but men just didn't. And I got a group of men where I just went down. I live in Las Vegas, and I was just polling some men I just met, like, what would make you want to watch this? Like, dude, this looks stupid. You know, if you have like a sports car with a woman in a bikini
Yeah,
draped
yeah, yeah.
across it in
Like
front
the
of a
old, remember, was
mansion,
it, what was that guy's name? So and so V. He would be on the boat with do you
yeah.
want to be rich like me?
And I'm like, that's not wealth. And first of all, those guys are fakes.
Yeah.
They get rich by exploiting other people. Like you're the sucker.
You are the revenue stream, right?
And it's not wealth, but it's just not wealth. And I don't know if you remember this time, but Warren Buffett and Bill Gates are actually really good friends because they met during these conferences of what billionaires should do to give back to the world and be philanthropists. And they kind of took the show on the road. I mean, I joked about it like the comedy routine, like, Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis, for those old
Right,
enough to know
right,
that
right.
reference. But they'd ask each other questions. And one of the questions that Bill Gates asked Warren Buffett is, why doesn't everyone just do what you do because we'd all be rich? And Warren Buffett says, nobody gets rich over time because everybody wants to get rich quick.
So it's that I did this, now I got the house. I did this, 10 cars, and not realizing like it's an incremental grind, like a marathon of sorts.
Well, I wouldn't even call it a grind or a marathon. I would phrase it very differently because that sounds like struggle. See,
Mm,
here's a key insight of what I built. Motivation is a myth, and people don't rise to their aspirations. I mean, maybe for like a week or two. That's why New Year's resolutions fail. You
right.
fall to your level of your systems and habits. And so, what I would say to a statement like that is, what I want to teach everybody is build a system where you can be completely lazy once it's set up. And over time, math will do the hard work.
Right.
Because
You don't.
math be mathing. Math doesn't care about your feelings any more than gravity cares about your feelings.
Yeah,
Over
that's real.
time, money builds. And once you understand that secret, I mean, Einstein called it compound interest, the eighth wonder of the world. Once you understand the secret of what math can do, you let it work in your favor. Most people have it work against them because of credit
Yeah.
card and other debt. And so math is your friend or math is your enemy, but it exists. You can't
Right.
ignore it any more than you can avoid death.
Right. I like that, man. I like that. So if there's another guy out there like me who doesn't know kind of where they should start, where should they start? Like just trying to get understanding about themselves and how they can.
Sure. Well, here's sort of the journey I put together for people in the classes I teach, and it mimics to some extent the journey I had, although not completely. And what I'd like to do is maybe over the next 6, 7, 8 weeks, we can go through these with some detail, because
Absolutely.
I think in like 40 minutes you can't do justice to this.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
maybe,
No, it's too big of a subject.
yeah,
So know that if you're watching, if you're listening, we're going to do this several times with several levels, and then we'll branch out so you can look a little bit deeper into what makes this stuff work. Because, if we're saying that we want to be better financially for the year, we can't watch one podcast, right? Like we've
You
got
can't, no, and this is it is you will have to invest some time, but once you have it, it's pretty simple,
yeah,
and you'll
like
be
physical
shocked.
health.
You'll be shocked it's this simple. You're like eat fewer calories than I burn and lose weight. What is this dark
Yeah,
magic?
exactly.
And it's the same thing, by the way. You make more than you spend and invest it. I mean, it's just
Yeah,
kind of it's reverse dieting. And
yeah.
by the way, it's
Dogs.
easier to make a little bit more money than to cut your budget because people have a hard time downsizing lifestyle. So I really focus on, well, how do you just make some more? And then
Right.
that is sacred and that goes to your
That's
tasks.
it.
So
Okay.
here's kind of the outline of how I think about it. So the key secret I just described to you, yeah, have surplus income and invest it. And investing is a complicated thing because there's a particular order you invest. And I'll come back to that in a bit. Like if you're
Okay.
in debt, that's your priority. And then your next
Right, right.
priority is like emergency fund. Hold that thought for a second.
Okay.
Um, there are two bedrock principles that I think are co-equal that you have to just viscerally feel and understand if you ever want to be good at this.
Okay.
And I don't know how to say which is 1A and which is 1B. So one is why are we bad at money, kind of the psychology of money, and the other is the power of exponential interest in the math of money.
Okay.
And I go back and forth on which is more important. So I want to say to all my brothers out here the following story because this is really important for us, and it's why a lot of us screw this up more than women, honestly. I originally taped a class called The Psychology of Money, and it's all the reasons we're bad at money. And I'd like to spend the next podcast maybe on that one.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
maybe we do that in two and do the math. I don't know. That's my problem. I don't know which is more important. And it's all the
Fair.
things we do. Like, why do we spend when we don't have it? Why do we want things now instead of saving for the future? Why do we make impulsive decisions? Why do we take risks that we really shouldn't be taking? Why, as men, do we think we're smarter than markets and professionals? And we alone, among everyone, are
Have
the
the
one
in
who
line.
can figure the whole thing out. And we know how to get rich quick when no one else does. And we there's a dozen key mistakes and maybe a dozen secondary mistakes that most of us make, and some are very gendered. And I've made them too, by the way. I'm a venture capitalist. I'm a risk junkie, so I'm not throwing stones again at other people. Like I'm going to tell you the stuff I did, but that's important because if you don't understand why we're bad at money and also face the shame around it, you can't have open and honest conversations with your closest friends, with the people in your peer group. You can't face yourself and say, I'm going to take these positive steps. And I have tools to deal with the shame of money and with all the things that we're bad at by saying we're going to automate and build tiny habits and systems so that you don't become your worst enemy. We will
Right.
spend after we invest. We will not invest after we spend. Because if you do it that latter way, there's never anything left. It's just all gone. So we're going to build systems that take into account that we have a mammalian brain that evolutionarily was adapted for now. Because in the African savannah for 200,000 years, you didn't live past 80
It was right about now, homie.
and you ate those calories right now. And from a stress perspective, when you get that envelope, like you mentioned earlier, from the bank, your cortisol shoots through the roof. You don't know whether the woolly mammoth population's dying or a predator is hunting you and a lion's after you,
It's
or the bank
real.
charged an overdraft fee. I mean, your
Yeah, yeah,
body
yeah.
can't
Exactly.
physiologically distinguish that. And so the psychology of money matters because I want people to move from feeling like they are hunted for sport by a financial system, where, by the way, you are the prey,
That is actual.
to multiple trillion-dollar industries that exploit you.
Yeah.
Whether it's
Yeah.
consumer credit, which
Yeah.
evolutionarily we are not adapted for that. We were never built for surplus of calories or credit cards. That's not,
Yeah.
our brains are easy to trick and manipulate and be abused. So, but it's not just our fault because we want to say, like, who's to blame? I mean, we're bad at this, but financial companies are really good at this. I can't remember what the number is, but like the CEOs of these credit card companies are making 30 to 40 million dollars per year, and it's because of viewers like you.
Right.
So,
Right. Right.
so I want to talk about why we're bad at money, how to be good at it by building systems. The other co-equal thing that is important is the math of money. And I want to show people, and I did this before, like I have a $100 bill from 1950 and 1981. It's like if you invested these in gold or the stock market or housing, what are they worth today? And it will blow your mind. And maybe we should do that next week. It's one of the next two.
Yeah, yeah.
And it goes through like what's a latte worth today at 18 when you're 65? What's the time, what is money really worth?
Mm,
And here's the point of why I tell both of these. When I first taped the classes, I called it the psychology of money, and then I had what is $100 worth, which is the power of math.
right.
Men hated the psychology class. They hated it. And I,
Why?
in focus groups, was like, well, why did you hate the class so much? Because I didn't think I was trashing men. I mean, I'm a man, right?
Right.
You're like, psychology is basically for weak people, and I know things. I'm the expert at this, and so they just associated it with weakness and frivolity and stupidity, and it didn't apply to them. But they loved the math one because math is
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
masculine.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
tough. And the women loved. I mean, I had so many women, including my sister. I shouldn't embarrass her on a podcast. She was in tears, and her friends were in tears watching the class because the psychologist was like, "This is my mom. This is my sister. This is my parents growing up. I recognize myself in these stories." Like I had to stop the class 4 or 5 times and just kind of get myself back.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And the math was okay. You know, I'm not trying to make a gender argument like math is hard. I'm just saying that men wouldn't recognize themselves in the mirror. And so I renamed it Why Are We Bad at Money? And now men are at least neutral about it.
Right.
But here's what I'll say to everyone, and I say this to every man I know is you're not better than the system. The system will beat you down. It is designed to beat you down. It is designed to exploit all of the ways you think you know more and are
Right.
better because
Right.
math always wins.
Right.
The house always wins. And so I really want everyone. So your question was what's the how would you learn this? And I'd say the two foundational tools, and there's actually a system after that. So,
I understand.
but you can't do any of that if you don't know the psychology of it and why we're being manipulated and why we're not built for this and how to build a system around that. And then the actual math, because you need to feel. You need to feel. And just as a teaser, I used to teach people, like I'd have them pull a calculator out and say, okay, times equals over 20 years. I
Right.
would show the graph. No one cared. You know what people care about? Stacks of money. This is like 18,
Yeah, he's a
5,000,
rapper.
10,000, 15,000. By the way, when you take money from your bank, they think you're a drug dealer.
Yeah, I was
Um,
about to say, like, you're probably on a watch list right now.
I have had a Department of Treasury report file. So I have like 40, 50,000 bucks here, which I'm going to deposit the hell back as soon as this is over because you don't keep
Wait, I
this in
got a
your
bunch of crypto I've been hearing about. I need that.
do not keep this in your house. It's bad, bad. But when you see that like that cup of coffee over time can cost you $5,000 after a certain number of years,
Right.
you're like, wait a
Arsenal.
minute. I need to think about this. And I,
Mhm.
I need to punch people in the face sometimes on this to say you need to understand the power of money. And I mentioned this to you the last time we spoke, but if you pick this $100 bill up off the ground, you have no problem just going and spending it. It's like, well, it's not mine, it's somebody else's. It's like free money, right?
Right.
And we don't feel a moral obligation to a stranger who lost it. But there's one important stranger we never talk about, which is our future self. When you spend this $100 that could be over time, maybe like this $40,000, you're cheating that person. That's you in the future.
Yeah, you're cheating yourself
You're
out of a
cheating
better
yourself.
future.
Your future self is a stranger to you. So those are the two foundational skills. And so I need you to understand those two things because none of this is going to make any sense, and you won't have conviction if you don't have those two baselines. And I don't care which order you want to go through them. Maybe flip a coin, but we should go over for a whole podcast why all the ways we're bad at money and the shame we feel. Because if you don't get that and feel it, you won't get this. And by the way, even if you are one of the chosen ones who happens to have all the system and discipline, you're going to live in a world where the majority of your friends have some subset of those like one or two dozen problems.
Yeah.
And so you need to know this just as a good person.
Yeah.
Even if you're the chosen one that doesn't have it, you still need to know it. And everyone needs to know the basic math of money. It's never taught in school. So, after you do that, we need to kind of see where you are and how to get you to where you want to go. And no matter even if you're 45 in credit card debt, you need to start and do this. I mean, it's better if you're 18 and don't make the mistakes, but you got to start wherever you are. I mean, the first rule of being in a hole club is stop digging the hole.
Right, right.
So, the first thing I want people to do is we do an assessment of, you know, where you at in terms of debt. And
Hmm.
there's good and there's bad debt. I mean, if you, by the way, Dave Ramsey is like an abomination unto nature because to him, all debt is evil, even like educational loans that give you
Right,
high
right,
earning
right.
power or business loans or investments to build something. I mean, that's ridiculous. There's good debt. Um, but I want to really focus on like debt over 10%, which I call the red zone. Like you need to stop, drop, roll. We got to get you out of that as soon as possible because you
Yeah,
can't make any good decisions
and
if
that's
you're in that zone.
yeah,
And the average unpaid credit card rate is at 22 to 23%, which means compound interest is working against you. That money is doubling like every few years.
yeah.
So you can't fight that. You got it, you're drowning. You are
Got
literally
a point.
drowning
Yeah.
right in plain sight. So we got to get you out of that hole. And then we move on to what are the goals you want to achieve? Do you want house down payment? Do you want that expensive wedding? Hint, please don't. But it's your money. Do what you want. I mean, you can be in a bathtub of $100 bills if you want. I don't. Hey, I live in Vegas. We don't king shame, but you do you. It's your money, but you should plan for it, right? And
Right,
so,
right,
if you have that round the world vacation, it's okay. You're allowed to feel joy with money. Money is not so you feel like you can't spend on anything because you're constantly now guilty about that. Because that's also a form of dysfunction. Just as much
yeah,
as spending everything, spending nothing is also dysfunctional.
yeah,
It's to
yeah.
bring joy and happiness and experiences. So I want to think about what are the things you want to do. I mean, as a typical default answer, we're going to focus on building you a, a, a savings account that has one goal, which is to build you slack and give you a cushion if something happens, like a shock to the system. Because when people sort of relapse, whether it's any addiction, it's because there's a shock to the system. So
Yeah.
some people it's 3 months, some people it's 6 months, some people it's a year. It depends on what you do and what your lifestyle is. Some people have family who can help them, others don't. So they need more or less money depending upon that. We need short-term cash for the next 5 years, which should be invested. These first two categories should be very, very safe. And I'll tell you what you should do with it, like what a high yield savings account is, what government bonds are. We'll cover that in the future. Like, what do you do with that money? Then there's money you want when you're 55, 65, 75.
Right.
And that should be invested in, I'm just going to tell you, invest it in the S&P 500 or in an index fund. If you don't know what those are, don't worry about it. We're going to go over it in great detail because I want you to know what all the fundamentals of investing are in terms of what's a bond, what's stock, what's an index fund, what is an index even. Most
Right.
people don't know this stuff, but it's actually really simple. So it'll go fast, but you need to know these things. A lot of programs teach you to pick individual stocks and read fundamentals and learn like, is there a ratio 30 to 1? You don't do any of that stuff. And I'll just, one fact here, there's like been, you know, tens of thousands of hedge funds and private equity funds and mutual funds over like the last 30 years that all set out to say we're going to beat the market. And the number of them that beat just investing in the market as a whole is like close to zero.
Dang.
So for paying zero fees, you can beat all the professional managers with degrees from Harvard and
Right.
MIT and
Just ride the
Chicago and
wave as it
Stanford.
should be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when you invest in the overall market, you're investing in the global economy.
Right.
So
Right.
I just keep it simple. Take those hours you would learn to invest or be a crypto millionaire or real estate and just focus on what makes you happy and on your career. Because focus on your earning power, right? Earn more. That's the easier part than having to spend less.
Yeah.
So we'll go through what are the steps. And so I have like the red zone, the orange, the yellow, the green, and then there's building real wealth. And what do you do with that? So there's some ancillary things you have to know as part of that. You need to understand how to set what I call the piping up, the automated system. How do you set up your 3 or 4 accounts and have money flow through them?
Right.
Just to foreshadow, like if you get paid on the first, on the second, money gets sucked into all these different accounts based
Right.
on the numbers that meet your goals. There's not one size fits all. And maybe it's all to debt repayment in the beginning, and then later it's like, some to the different instruments. And what are those instruments? So we're going to cover that too. And if, for foreign viewers, meaning non-US viewers, some of this will be US specific. There's analogs, but what's a 401k? What does the employer match matters? What's a Roth IRA? All these are intimidating. They're actually pretty easy to follow once you have it explained.
You have a sense of it. Okay.
But how do you prioritize those? I mean, where do you put money for retirement? Do you keep it out of retirement? What you have to understand a little bit about the tax code in the US.
Right. Okay.
Sorry, but we were never, we're taught how to blast out three blind mice on a recorder, but we don't know how to do taxes. So, and music education matters, but so does this. So we
Yeah,
need,
no. I agree. I definitely think that financial literacy in America is has been horrible for a long time, and I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure it isn't by accident.
it's
You know,
not by accident. Yeah.
it's
And
not
the
by
teachers
accident.
don't know this either. I actually met, there's a party recently in Vegas of the alumni associations of a bunch of major universities. So it's called Ivy Plus. It's like all the Ivy schools, Chicago, Stanford, Michigan,
Yeah,
Cal, like,
right,
everybody. Vegas doesn't have a lot of high power, major universities. So like it's a
right.
small group. But anyway, so I met someone who's a graduate from one of these institutions who is a teacher here who teaches financial literacy. And I was like so excited. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to hear you do this. Tell me how you teach it. I always want to hear. And she was teaching people, well, what I teach people is they put it into a bank account, into a savings account, and I teach them not to spend and how to cut their budgets. And I'm exaggerating very, very slightly,
Yeah.
but I'm not. I mean, like this is actually kind of I mean, it's a longer conversation. And the problem with that is it's like bad dog, bad dog, bad dog. You're spending, it's your fault.
Right.
And so that's not part of it. Psychology isn't about, we're going to show you the joy of what you have at the end and how you can live a life worth living and give back and travel and have experiences and just budget and plan for that and let your money work for you. But the second part is the money was losing money because if you put money in the bank, it's like 0.1% interest. You're losing to inflation. The bank is making billions on your money and you're getting
Right.
nothing.
Not. Right.
They're not your friends. So even people who teach this can be menaces. I mean, I'm not saying the kids would be better getting no education than that, but it's close in my mind if they're better off not getting that education because they're taught you need to cut your spending because you're the problem, as opposed to how do we build something worth building and build a system and habits and put it in things that are so safe they make you nothing.
Right.
And, a different example is when I was in London recently, I met with someone who runs education programs for one of the major groups that teaches private equity fund managers. So this is like at a professional level. They
Right.
don't
Super.
teach consumers. They're teaching, they work with
Right.
professional, hedge funds and private equity funds. And she's like, well, how do you teach this? And I said, well, I teach people, to, we put money that's safe in like high yield savings accounts or government treasuries. At the time it was like 4.5%. Now it's about 3.5%. It fluctuates, but it's safe, right? And it's government guaranteed effectively. And then after that, we just put in the S&P 500 and let it ride. It depends on the time because we have something called
Yeah.
volatility. We'll talk about that.
Right.
And she says, well, that's stupid because you should be teaching people about high yield debt and they should be investing in bonds for high yield debt. And I have a friend who sells them. And just to kind of give you the math of it, you can get like 4.5%, and you pay these management fees to these professionals who do that.
Right.
And here's where I'm going with the story. And I'll give you, we can actually run the math in a future podcast.
Yeah.
The difference between 4.5% minus fees, so call it 4%. And the stock market, by the way, over the last like 75 years has been like at 11.5%, but let's call it 10.5% compound
Right.
annual growth. The difference between doing one is over a particular time period, I could get a 4x return, four times my money. So, I can get 400, 1, 2, 3, 4 out of $100 if I
Right.
do the bonds. But if I put it in the stock market, I could get like 5,000. The difference
That's
is that big
different.
because does that blow your compound
That's
interest?
a big difference.
Compound interest is badass because the difference between 4% and 10% or 10.5% over decades can be hundreds of thousands of
Not,
dollars.
it's not even comparable.
And
Like,
and I'm like, that's just a mathematical error. It's not a matter of opinion. It's not like
right. It's
you like Coke Zero, I like Pepsi Max or whatever. I mean, it's not
right,
like, you know, this is just you are wrong. Period. Full stop. No apologies. You're just wrong. And so I want you to know what Ivy League educated teachers who teach financial literacy don't know. I want you to know what the banks might know but aren't telling you.
hmm
And I want you to know what a major person running education programs for hedge fund and private equity managers in the United Kingdom, what they don't know. Because they're in the mentality of selling you product for
right,
fees that their friend is pushing,
right.
opposed to you can beat every professional manager in the world for free just by betting the global
Do
economy.
it. Just do it.
But unless someone never watches again, I want to make an important caveat. You don't
You
put all your
better
money
come back.
into stocks today that you need because of volatility. The stock market isn't just one of these things. It goes
Right,
up, it goes down. You may make 30%, lose 20%. You have a crash. I just read a book on 1929 and the stock market crash. I mean, we've had depressions, recessions. It goes up, it goes down, but over time,
it always wins.
it always wins. I mean, you go 200 years, 100 years, 80 years, 60 years, 40 years, the return on the market is about 10 to 11.5% compound annual growth, meaning it
That's
compounds every
crazy,
year.
man, because I was just about to ask you before we close this out. I was about to ask you, like, everybody I know is scared right now with
Yeah.
the financial, times and the political times. And it's like, you know, I don't know how to read the times in terms of money, but like it looks like everybody's scared. And it looks like most of the people, like I've always known, but just being in the valley, right? There's always a certain amount of people that tended to be doctors, lawyers, or people who were upper management in tech or whatever. Like they seemed okay, not worried. Right now, everybody's worried. I haven't really seen everybody worried since about 2009. That's what it feels like.
Yeah,
And
but you
so
see,
when these times are happening, like what are you supposed to do or not do?
and that's a great question. You're afraid, and because you're afraid, you want to feel like you can assert control. I'm going to pull my money out of the market. I'm not
Right,
going to invest. I'm going to
right,
hoard gold or put cash in my mattress. But my,
right,
my, my grandparents were depression babies, and
right.
they literally had money in their walls, like they, you know,
Yeah, had the whole, yeah.
punch out the drywall, put it
Yeah,
in
let's go.
patches. I'm not kidding. I mean, there's so
I
much
believe
money,
it. No, no, no. I mean,
and
that's how a lot of black people save in the South as a
and
standard.
they lost hundreds of thousands of dollars over their lifetime by not investing just in the stock market. I mean, that's why I picked the 1950. Like if they invested, they could have had hundreds of thousands.
Yeah,
They never knew that because they all they saw was stocks are bad, they're going to crash. It's speculation, it's bankers destroying the economy. They couldn't get out of that.
right.
And what I want to say to you is I want you to trust the system and to focus on what makes you extraordinary in life. And if you want to change the political system, I mean, we all need to be doing something about that. So we should. But when you invest, you're betting on the power of the global economy over time. There's going to be depressions and recessions and ups and downs. Timing the market is the dumbest thing you
Over
can do.
time, we're good.
Over time, that's what it has to be long-term money. Remember what I said is money you need in the next like 5 to 7 years, safe, safe. So government backed, the trick is not to lose that. Money you
Right.
need in 40 years, trust the process. We are, I've said this before to you and maybe on a previous podcast, is I'm a dark, cynical person. Like I read about the Holocaust growing up. I would read Eichmann in Jerusalem about the banality of evil. And deep
Right.
in my heart, I believe a third of people would kill another third while the other third would watch and do nothing. So
Yeah. Looks like
I'm
right now.
like now. And so I have that view. On the same time, let's come back to reality. So I'm as cynical as you are, and maybe worse. But here's the reality: the world has never been better. We've never had greater education throughout the world. We've never had education of girls and women at the levels. We've never had lower sub $1 a day subsistence poverty. We've never had greater vaccinations or access to clean water or freedom from guinea worm or preventable disease. We've never had as many people in the middle class. We've never had as many people with access to communications, like here, the dream of the ancients, the Library of Alexandria, all the world's knowledge, we all have it in our pocket. Now,
Yeah.
we use it for pornography and cat videos, but we have it. Everyone. I mean, English is an issue,
Yeah, no, I know what you mean though. Like by and large, the access has never been greater. This is something that I struggle with all the time because I think I want to say it was Ryan Holiday, and I'll never say it as good as he was saying it, but it was one of his talks or maybe one of his audiobooks. Like basically he was saying like access to the actual truth is so high. There's lots of lies and chaos out there,
yeah,
but actual access to the truth is so high that there's no excuse for not knowing certain things at this point. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. So the question is, what does this have to do with finances? And the answer is this: is when you bet on the essentially all stocks combined, weighted by their market capitalizations. That I'll explain what that means in a future podcast. You're betting on the global economy.
Yeah.
For years, human economies were flat for tens of thousands of years. And suddenly we thought, hey, what if we stop killing people for believing that the big disk in the sky was like, a star as opposed to like a god who's angry? And then let's educate people. Let's educate the masses. And let's educate women. I mean, like, let's use technology. Now let's use, high technology. Like, the world is exponential. Progress is exponential. And because of that, the economy is exponential. You're just betting on the global economy. It's no more complicated than that. So I can have short-term views on Putin and Orban and Bolsonaro and Duterte and Trump. And if your politics are different, that's okay. You can have the same views about Biden or whoever,
Yeah.
but at the
Whoever.
end of the day, the global economy is the global economy, and exponential growth is exponential growth. So you're just betting on education and technology and growth.
Yeah.
And that's all you're betting on long term. And there will be ups and downs. The reason you can't invest all of your money in the stock market if you need the next 5 years is what if there's a 30% correction?
Yeah. Yeah.
And by the way, if that happens, don't pull your money out. It's on sale. Leave it.
Right,
Leave
right.
it.
Let it be.
It's
Let it
always a
be.
mistake to pull out. I mean, you wait, that's what you don't think about it. You just say, I know it'll be there in 40 years.
Yeah. I like it.
Money that you need for short-term things, safety, long-term, take the risk. And because volatility up and down over time leads to greater return. So volatility is actually your friend. Volatility is your friend in the long term.
Right, right, right. Just in a minute, it's going to be a little turbulent, but it's cool.
But you have to understand the math and feel the math and feel confident, or it feels too bad. Because I mean, I'll maybe if we're wrapping soon, I'll leave you with the story. When I was a law firm partner, my a paralegal of mine said, "Hey, my husband and I just inherited some money, and what do we do with it?" And I had this kind of same discussion.
Yeah.
Is it short term, long term? Is this for retirement? Do you have things you need in the meeting? Like, we just want this for retirement. It's okay. Put it in the S&P 500 and forget about it. And it was in 2008, and later that year, the market
Dang, it
crashed.
was crazy in 2008.
And I mean, her husband came in and was yelling at me and threatening me. I'm going to sue your ass because you gave bad financial advice. You're not a financial advisor. Fuck you. I mean, I'm sorry. I don't know
Yeah.
what I can say on a podcast here, but I mean, it was bad.
Who's mad?
And, and they took it all out. And if they just left it, in fact, I'll do a quick calculation here. There's calculators online. You can do this. So they ended up losing like, they put, let's say $100, they got 65 out. If they just left it into today, they'd have 697. It would have been a 7x return. So just to show again, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven. If they just left it. Instead, they got like $65 out of 100. No,
Wow.
actually, it's like $100,000. So it could have been 700,000. They could have had nearly $1 million.
If they just would have sat still.
They just sat still. And that's again, like if you didn't need the money for today, just chill. Now, of course, if you
Yeah.
needed it for today, like you're going to buy a house down payment, put it in high yield savings accounts, which are FDIC insured. If you know what that means, I'll explain it in the future. Or
I
buy government
definitely.
bonds where you're a US Treasury
Yeah.
or the
Okay.
equivalent.
Okay.
So the people make bad decisions because we're scared when we should be bold, and we're bold when we should be scared.
Okay.
And you got to trust a system and a process, but you have to believe first. And the good news is this is math and it's reality. So you're not believing David. You're believing the system. You're believing that this has always worked and shall work, and there's a reason for it.
Man, I like it. Okay, so David, we're gonna bring you back next week. We're gonna keep this going, like I said, for at least 6 weeks. Okay, we're gonna go over this deeper. It's stuff I need to know. It's stuff most of you need to know, and it's how we as men and whether we're single, married, somewhere in the middle, it's how we can be better for ourselves, so we can be better for our families and the people we love. David Frazee. Thank you so much. Make sure you guys are listening to, or not listening to, that you're visiting Demystifying Wealth, demystifyingwealth.com and Demystifying Silicon Valley. But you're going to get some cool lessons here as we step into 2026.
Yeah, and Adise, if I could throw one thing in
Yeah,
there,
yeah, absolutely.
for people who do go to the website, um, it's right now 10 hours of courses that are taped. There will be more coming. There's a small charge for it, but I want to explain why. And if you can't afford it, I'm going to tell you what you can do. So I am putting together programs with an affiliated nonprofit where we're trying to teach financial literacy in Title I high schools. In the United States, that means high schools with a high percent of students under the poverty level or on federal lunch, same thing. And so the money will go to pay like counselors who are trauma informed. I mean, the money also it's not going to the house of David. It's going to good purpose.
Right, 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 right. That's great.
And for those who make less than 200% the poverty level or teachers or students who can't afford it, there's a whole discount section that shows you what to do because I want this to be accessible. No one's going to be turned away. So if you can't, so if you can't afford the money for that, there's a mechanism to get you on.
We'll make sure
And
you're
I literally, and this is a relatively small ticket on my entrepreneurship site, which is for venture capital, which is a
yeah,
higher price point. I mean, I literally one person's like, if I tutor the kid in math next door, can I have free access? I'm like, of course you can. I mean, no one will be turned away, but if you have the financial means, invest back in the system so we can get
yeah.
this information out. I just wanted to put that out there. But
Oh, that's great, man. Yeah, look, one of the main reasons why I like David, and also, this isn't a guy I just met. I've been on him since about 2006 or something like that, right? It's been a
God,
while, right?
we're old.
And so, yeah. And so the reason why I'm telling you that is because, I met this guy through Josh Waitzkin, big chess player extraordinaire. And he and I clicked pretty much immediately and have been cool. And I can tell you of all the people I know about money and all the people I know that make real money in real life, he's one of the coolest and one of the most compassionate, right? And so that has impressed me with him even more than the money he makes for himself and other people. So please do yourself the favor. Go to Demystifying Wealth, go to Demystifying Silicon Valley, right? And give yourself a chance to learn better and do better because these are the times in which if you back to Ryan Holiday, if you've looked at The Obstacle is the Way, a lot of the people in that book took forward steps in craziest times, and that's what paid off for them, right? The world looked like it was collapsing, and then somebody saw an opportunity and they stepped forward and made a lot happen, right? And so that can be your story too, but not if you don't know what to do. All right. I'll see you next week, man. Thank you for the wisdom you broke down today. And looking forward to more episodes on this in the coming weeks, dude. So, all right, we'll see you guys next week. Got some other cool philosophy and martial arts stuff coming up, but we're going to loop always right back to this because this part of the game is crucial. All right. Peace to the planet. See you guys soon.